16 of the Daily Graphic. Managing COVID-19 patients. Exim Bank funds Tobinco to produce drugs. $5 million facility to be advanced. That story is on page 3. Information Ministry, Mahama Lord Media for COVID-19 role. That story is on page 16 of the Daily Graphic. We'll now take a look at the Ghanaian Times. Local production of COVID-19 treatment drugs. Exim Bank Tobinco strike $5 million deal. The story is on page 12. We also have a story here. Getting ready for the rains, we must regularly desilt our drains. That's coming from Atachia, and that story is on page 12. Provide stimulus packages for businesses, households. That's coming from TUC, and their urgent government. That story is on page 13. And it's a great visual here on the do's of wearing your mask, because a lot of us are wearing it wrongly. So it says here, do cover your nose and mouth. Some people just cover their mouth and their chin, everything else aside their nose. So it's really important. Pull your hair back and remove by grabbing from the back. You don't touch the face of the mask, you just touch the sides so that you don't infect yourself with whatever viruses that may have been on the mask. We'll now go on to the new crusading guide. Sabotage at Kotoka International Airport, story on pages 3 and 10. It says here, as GACL MD diverts disinfection contracts. That story again is on pages 3 and 4. Choosing parliamentary candidates dangerous. Dr. Amakuntufo advises NEC. Steel manufacturers increase prices despite 50% cut on electricity. We'll now take a look at the Informer newspaper. On the front page of the Informer newspaper, we have measures to curb spread of COVID-19. Equiapem King makers snub Akufo-Addo. Rubbish restriction on law and endanger innocent lives in the name of chieftaincy. That story is on page 3 of the Informer newspaper. Trade Fair Company again sacks 40 workers in violation of its own CBA. That story is on page 4. We'll now also see here, Education Ministry insults private schools over COVID-19 donation. That story is on page 5. We'll now take a look at the Custodian. On the front page of the Custodian, we have MPs dismiss gossips on COVID-19 cash. That story is on page 3. Government salutes Ghanaian journalists. That story is on page 2. Adra Safo donates to 2 orphanages in Dome Kwabenya. Story also on page 2. And finally, Ghana Exim Bank and Tobinco team up to produce medicines for COVID-19 patients. We'll now go on to the Chronicle. Police raid money doubling shrine. 3 bodies exhumed, 2 juju men grabbed. That story is on pages 2 and 3 of the Chronicle. 51 Okada riders arrested for flouting social distancing protocol. Adra Safo supports orphanages in Dome Kwabenya. We'll now take a look at the Finder. They are officially back now, so you can pick up your copy of the Finder this morning. COVID-19 dire on economy. That story is on page 2. President directs BOG Finance Ministry to find solutions. GNPC donates $1 million towards construction of infectious disease isolation and treatment facility. That story is on page 8. TUC bemoans devastating job losses triggered by COVID-19. That story is on page 4. And finally, Ghana's confirmed COVID-19 cases hit 2,169, and 18 dead. That story is on page 10 of the Finder. We'll now take a look at our final newspaper, the Gold Street Business. No new fiscal incentives for job retention. So no new fiscal incentives for job retention. That story is on page 2. MOFA seeks legal backing to restrict soybean export. That story is also on page 4. And finally, cocoa trades at premium for fear of shortages. That story is on page 2 of the Gold Street Business. We'll now take a look at some online stories. We'll be looking at citynewsroom.com, and of course, you can always go onto the City Newsroom app for all the City Newsroom information that you need, and also visit citynewsroom.com/coronavirus for all your coronavirus updates. On citynewsroom.com, we have a Kropong, 4 royals to face court for installing chief despite ban on gatherings. Haruna Idrisu challenges legality of state institutions' donations to COVID-19 fund. Afrobarometer survey, 72% of Ghanaians feel media is not free from state interference. Amend SNIT law to enable workers receive support during difficult times. That's coming from the minority. And finally, COVID-19 billboard featuring Akufo-Addo without face mask to be pulled down. That's coming from the Information Minister, Kojo Oppong Nkrumah. We'll now take a look at some more news from citybusinessnews.com. On citybusinessnews.com, we can help government disburse 600 million Ghana cedis SME loans. That's coming from the Savings and Loans Association. COPEC IES back calls for an increase in bust margins. You can also see here, final story. Domestic airlines reduce passengers by 50% to enforce social distancing. So that's really great news there. Now, throughout the news review, we want to hear from you. So if you're watching us on Facebook, you could just comment down below. If you're on other social media platforms, the hashtag is Breakfast Daily. If you want to reach us directly, our WhatsApp line is 0550-585-832. I have been joined by lawyer Kwame Jantoa, who's a former vice chair of PIAC and a member of the CPP. Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I like your shirt.
Thank you.
How's your weekend?
I like your dress too.
Oh, thank you.
My weekend was quiet. Stayed at home.
Good.
Didn't have much places to go, so
yeah,
just stayed at home. Can be boring though, but hey.
Getting used to it.
You have to get used to it too.
You don't have a choice.
If COVID catches you,
that's it for
you will come and you won't even see him coming.
We've also been joined by Elvis Darko, who's the editor of The Finder. Good morning, Elvis.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
Your back is, are things getting back to normal? You're going to get busy again?
Of course. Yesterday I returned from work and I felt good. I'm like, wow, at the end of it, finally, I'm back to life.
So what should we be expecting from The Finder?
About a little bit that we can do to make sure that Ghana moves in the right direction. For me, that's all you should expect from The Finder. Any day, anytime.
Nice. Speaking of The Finder, we're going to take our first story from page 10 of The Finder, and it says here, Ghana confirmed COVID-19 cases hit 2,169 and 18 dead. I'm reading from page 10 of The Finder. Ghana confirmed cases of COVID-19 has risen to 2,169 as of Saturday, May 2nd, 2020. The number of dead has also risen to 18, while the number of recoveries moved to 229. So this is the regional breakdown. In the Greater Accra region, we have 1,852. In the Ashanti region, we have 117. In the Eastern region, we have 87. Central region, 21. OT, 19. Upper East, 19. Volta, 16. Northern, 13. Upper West, 10. Western, 9. Western, North 4, and Northeast 2. So, Elvis, I'll start with you on this story. What does this mean for us? Because as a lot of us are still going back to our lives as normal, many of us are returning back to work now, and the numbers, they keep going up.
Yeah, for me, you know it that from the beginning I've said that definitely we should expect the numbers going up. Because globally, when you look at the trend of the disease, it appears that once you record one, the possibility of going up is the normal thing that happens across the globe. So for me, the numbers going up was expected, and I must say that currently, if we look at the numbers we have, I think that we are doing very well. Because when I compare to testing done by most countries on the continent, apart from South Africa, I think Ghana is the next country that has done more testing of its citizens than any other country. And for me, if you look at the positivity rate, which represents the number of people tested compared to the number of people who tested positive, we are still less than 2%. And I think that is a very encouraging news. If you look at many countries across the globe, positivity rates have been very high. That is why they were overwhelmed with the situation. So I'm happy that our positivity rate is at least less than 2%. But I have said, if you are sick of any disease and you need help, the most important thing everybody focuses on is recovery. That you will not die, even though you are sick and you have been taken to the hospital or not, or you have been tried on whatever, you will not die. So for me, I've always said that we should measure the success of the COVID fight in every country based on the number of people who are dying. So I'm not much concerned about the number of cases that we are recording, but I'm much concerned about how many of those people are we losing in terms of death. Once the death rate is lower, then I'm comfortable. But if I'm seeing a higher death rate, then I'll be worried, because we don't want to lose the people. That is why all these efforts we see around the globe are taking place. We just want to save lives. So for me, the focus should more be on, are we losing more people to the disease? If million people will get the disease and all of them will recover, who really should be worried about that? Nobody should be worried about that. But when people are dying, these are loved ones, families, friends, people who are the livelihoods of many families who are dying. That is where the danger comes from. These are people who should be helping to build the country and the world, who we are losing. That's where the problem is. So for me, the Ghana situation, as of today, based on the figures that I've seen, if I'm looking at 18 people dying from a figure of over 2,000, I think that relatively, if you compare the positivity rate across the globe, I think Ghana basically is doing something right. And I only hope that the government will step up more, that we can do more of that, so that we can save more lives. Because it turned out that when you find the person at the early stages, where the person does not need a ventilator, most of them survive. Because if you look at it globally, it turns out that more than 60-70% of people who are put on ventilators end up dying. They go on ventilators because they end up at the hospital at the time that they are finding it difficult to breathe.
And some also have pre-existing health
that is the issue. So for me, it's important that we look at the data from the perspective of, one, how many deaths have we recorded? Two, what's the positivity rate? If you look at the US now, their positivity rate is just like almost 20%. It's so high. And if you look at the deaths they are recording, it scares you. If you look at Italy, France, and so I'm happy that on the African continent, even though one issue that everybody needs to focus on is, are we doing the testing like those countries are doing? That is one issue we all have to address. How many people are we testing? That's why I said, if Ghana is second in Africa in terms of testing, it means now we are doing something else. So for me, I think that my advice to every Ghanaian is that let's stick to all the protocols as has been directed by the president and the health officials. Let's analyze the data from the perspective of deaths and positivity rate, but not the numbers going up. Because I think that if we have 1 million people and all of them will heal and return to normal life, I will not be worried much. I'm only worried about people who are dying from the disease.
Okay, Lawyer John, so we have the numbers now, 2,169 positive, 18 dead. We've brought down the partial ban on as far as the lockdown is concerned, but social gatherings are still banned. People still can't hang out or move about, but life is beginning to look normal. How do we still ensure that we keep COVID-19 in the backs of our minds as we're beginning to come out of our homes more?
Good morning again, Jifa. And may I just clarify something that Elvis said last week. And Elvis, you were right with regards to the face masks. I actually went to do some research on it, and the WHO had stated that face masks are no protection to the COVID-19. So you are right there.
Thank you.
Jifa, for me, it's got to do with concentration. When you look at the figures in every region, Greater Accra region is 1,852. That tells you something. COVID-19 is not fearful if there weren't any deaths. And the challenge with it is the deaths. Now, when you look at 1,852 in Greater Accra, you go to Ashanti, 117, Eastern, 87, Central, 21, Uti, 19, Upper East Region, 19, Volta Region, 16, Northern Region, 13, Upper West, 10, Western Region, 9, Western North Region, 4, and Northeast Region, 2. When you look at all these figures, when did this COVID start? It started somewhere
almost 2 months ago.
2 months ago.
And we're a few days
we
away.
still have low figures. It should tell us something, that we should try as much as possible to concentrate on Greater Accra.
Isn't that what we're doing?
Well, we are, but the point I wanted to make was that we should try and stop it now infecting the other regions with these low numbers.
So how do we do that?
By enforcing the measures that government have put in place. And as I always say, Jifa, the responsibility of putting COVID to sleep is with the population, it's with the people. Government can do as much as it can, but if the people do not adhere to the measures they've put in, then it's going to be challenging. Today, as I was coming, I looked in Trotros. A lot of the Trotro, people taking Trotro are not wearing masks. Some are, some aren't. Even the Trotro mates aren't wearing. That is worrying. I think we need to enforce it more and let people understand. Well, when you look at last week and 2 weeks ago and this week, you see a lot of people walking around wearing the face masks. And it's a good sign that they seem to be understanding what we're talking about. But generally, we need to have a situation where we are testing more people. And as I suggested last week, let's have test booths dotted all over the place, especially in Greater Accra, where we have 1,852. Jifa, I'm looking forward, if anybody is going to take or collect any data with these local air flights we have now opened. They said not more than 34 people will be on the flight. I would love somebody to monitor it, to see whether there are going to be any infections there, and testing and all that, so that it can give us a better understanding. Because right now, I need to travel. I need to go to Kumasi. I don't want to drive because of the Accra-Kumasi road. And then I'm scared whether to take a flight or whether to go by STC. So I called the CEO of STC over the weekend, Nana Komia, and I asked him, what is your social distance policy? He said 1 to a seat. Okay, 1 to a seat, but you realize that nowadays the buses that have come, you can't open the windows. So it's a confined space. And you have air conditioning. And I ask myself, is this safe? It means I have to wear my mask, I have to have my sanitizer, and be wiping my hands and, making sure I don't take my mask off. I must say, Jifa, you can't wear this mask for more than 5 hours.
Yeah.
It can be a challenge. So these are some of the things that, we need to find ways of educating our people. I guess most of the people who take public transport, the trotros and the likes, they get tired of wearing it, especially if it's hot, if the heat and all that. So we need to find ways. Yes, we hope it's for a short duration of time. I believe that, and I hope that, if Ghana and other African countries can come up with medication or a vaccine to cure this thing, it would boost the continent up.
Yeah.
You know that they are, and correct me if I'm wrong in the pronunciation of this word, I asked Dr. Nsiasare, I was on another TV show with him, and I asked him, so what are you using to treat patients? They're using hydroxychloroquine.
Hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah, hydroxychloroquine and some others. In Europe, they don't use it, but it looks as if it's working for us. Because I was wondering, you say, okay, we now have about what, 400 people? Is that the figure who have recovered?
No, 229.
229?
Yeah.
If they've recovered, how did they recover? Did they recover via their own strength? Did they recover?
Well, some of them had very mild to no symptoms at all, so that could also play a role.
It's part and parcel of the recovery. And I think it is a good thing for Ghanaians to know. One thing the media has also started doing, they've started interviewing people who have recovered. They've started going into these medical facilities where people are kept. And I watched one over the weekend, East Ghana. And the nurses in the hospital are fantastic. The way they even handle the patients, the way they even, dress themselves up to go in. You can see that they are united and they have a good leader who is helping them to help the patients who are infected. So I think, yes, it is good, the numbers that we have, and I hope it doesn't explode in the other region.
Okay, we hope so as well. We'll take a look at our second story here. I'm reading from ccnewsroom.com, and it says, Akufo-Addo extends closure of Ghana's border by 1 month. So our borders have been closed for another 1 month. President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo has extended the closure of the country's borders by 1 month. The extension takes effect today, Monday, May 4th, 2020 at 1 a.m. So it already happened. President made this announcement at a virtual May Day celebration on Friday, May 1st, 2020. I'm going to quote him. He says, with the suspension of all public gatherings still in force and our schools still closed, government has taken the decision to extend further the closure of borders by a month, effective 1 a.m. of 4th May until Sunday, 31st May 2020. We know that the overwhelming majority of positive cases came from travelers or contacts of travelers, so we have no option than to keep our borders closed until we are confident that we have put in place measures to prevent travelers from importing the virus. Now, some of the questions we'll be asking now, community cases have actually, gone up far beyond the imported cases. So if we've lifted the partial lockdown, maybe we should start considering, opening our borders again. There are a lot of travelers who may still be stranded here. What does that mean for our economy? We'll be looking at all of that right after I go for this break. But don't forget that it's an interactive show, so wherever you're watching us from, use the hashtag Breakfast Daily for us to hear from you, and the WhatsApp line 0550-585-832. If you're outside Ghana, the country code is +233. We'll be right back.
Pay app. More social, more power, more services. Experience a cooler way of payments with exciting new features. Want to go social? Upload a cool image to add a personal feel to your account. Payments are even more seamless with an enhanced process. Mark some accounts as favorites so they are super easy to access. Even cooler, view payment due dates and check remaining balances for your favorite accounts. Want to repeat a payment? Do that right from the History tab. Have all your money in one place with a sleek look and feel. Bank Direct has had an awesome makeover. You can now send money instantly to 22 banks and counting. Express Pay, payments simplified.
Welcome back. It's Breakfast Daily on City TV. Thank you so much for staying with us. Again, it's an interactive show, so wherever you're watching us from, we want to hear from you. Just use the hashtag Breakfast Daily for us on social media. If you want to reach us directly, our WhatsApp line is 0550585832. If you're outside Ghana, the country code is +233. I still have with me Elvis Darko, who is the editor of The Finder, as well as lawyer Kwame Jantwa, who's a former vice chair of PIAC and a member of the CPP. And before the break, we're discussing Ghana extending the closure of its borders by 1 month, effective 1 a.m. today till the 31st of May, and what that means for us as a nation. Elvis, your thoughts on this?
No, for me, I think that the closure of the border till May ending was in the right direction.
Why?
Well, I think that globally it's something that everybody has done. Only few countries still have their borders opened. And looking at what we've been able to achieve based on the quarantine we did before the closure of the borders, the out 10. And even aside that, if you look at the cases in Volta, in northern parts of our border, regions that border neighboring countries, some of the cases that we identified were actually people from those countries who crossed our borders and entered Ghana. The 10 case in the northern region, for instance, is a typical example. If you look at the cases from places like Oti region, if you look at Volta, just the new figure of 30 positive cases that came this weekend. If you look at the majority of the cases in people who have crossed the borders. So obviously, closing the border has been useful, and therefore extending it is good. Right now, even across the globe, many people are not ready to travel. So even if you open your borders, it may not be helpful. What I am looking at is it's not going to be forever. We can't close our borders forever. So the question then is, what strategy are we going to implement if we are to reopen the borders? Because whether we like it or not, the border has to be open at a point in time. So the extension is going on, good, fantastic. But then, at what point are we going to open? And if we are opening, what strategies are we going to use to open? Because if we open and people still come in and they bring the disease, infections will spike. So what are we going to do if we are to open the borders? So for me, I was looking at, based on the experience of quarantine the people that came in at the time we locked the borders,
The 1,030.
that we have over 100 people being positive. Can we be contemplating also now issuing a directive that we are going to open our borders, but when we open, if you are coming to do anything in Ghana, come 2 weeks ahead of time, because we will quarantine you for the 2 weeks and test to make sure that you are safe before we allow you into the public. Meanwhile, in that aspect, you will pay for your stay in whichever hotel you are going to stay for the quarantine. The first one, we didn't start early. It was like impromptu, so government has to foot the bills of people staying at the hotels. But I think that if we are going to open our borders gradually and we want to follow a similar policy, the people who really want to come to Ghana to do some business should be made to pay for their own quarantine accommodation and whatever for the 2 weeks period. So that if you are coming for a conference, come 2 weeks ahead of time. You come, we take the sample, we test. 2 weeks time, we take the sample and test. If you are negative for the 2 tests, we allow you to go and do your conference, so that we don't follow economic reasons, open the borders, and then more people will import the disease, and then community infection will spike again, and then we'll be back to stage 1 and start implementing same policy. So I think that opening the borders, we need a very smart strategy to be able to do that.
Okay, but some people are also saying that as it stands now, as you said, the quarantine group, just a bit over 100 of them tested positive. Greater Accra alone has a number of 1,852 people testing positive. Shouldn't we be looking at perhaps separating Greater Accra from the rest of the country?
No, that I agree. More focus should be on Greater Accra. even in Greater Accra, there will be specific communities or areas where this is happening. That's why the government is what they call enhanced surveillance.
But have we done enough to, perhaps separate Greater Accra from the rest of the country as far as?
No, I think we have done a lot. A lot of the people that are tested actually are in Greater Accra region.
Yes.
The numbers over 117,000. Lot of the majority are in the Greater Accra region because.
Yes. But now that we've lifted the partial lockdown and people are still moving, should we be looking at something to do with keeping people within Greater Accra region?
How do we keep people within the Greater Accra region alone? That's what I'm saying, that you just have to look at which areas in Greater Accra, which particular areas are we having a spike in community infections? What might be the reasons? How do we tackle those specific areas? How do we deal with them?
I mean, so let's use Ayawaso West, Wogon, Ayawaso East as an example. Have we done enough to ensure? For me, I live in Ayawaso West, Wogon. I've not seen anyone encourage me to stay there.
Oh no, but stay. Stay. You will stay, but that's why we have been giving social distancing. We have been giving to wear masks to do. I think these things are quite reasonable. Okay. I have asked somebody at that place who called me and said they were there and the people just walked into their homes. Why? They said they want to test them. Why did they want to? So it's like infection is rising in the area, so they had decided to do random testing of houses, and their house is one of the ones that have been selected, and therefore everybody in the house has to be tested. She was worried. I said, no, don't be worried. That's the normal thing that the government will be able to bring the disease under control. Because if infections are rising in your community, they try to bring people in to look at random sampling of houses, so you shouldn't be worried. So I think that strategy is good. But the question is, if we are doing that strategy, can we go ahead and say, okay, Ayawaso West is happening, so we want to make Ayawaso West a special case and test everybody in Ayawaso West. So that let's bring in test kits. Maybe there are 100,000 people, 200,000 people in the Ayawaso West. Because that area has turned out to be a place where we're having more infections. Let's test everybody in that area. Let's quarantine them for 2 weeks. Test everybody, do a second test within the 2 weeks. That will enable us to take out all the positive people immediately. And then the rest that will be left will be people who will see as what? Negative and can go about the normal activities. These are things I think we can do. But the question is, in the era where we are having shortage of test kits across the globe, do we currently have the kind of test kit if you take that decision that Ayawa? So there are about 4 constituencies put together there, and they may have over 200,000-300,000 people. Do we have the enough test kit that we can say we are putting these people under lockdown for 2 weeks, test and do a second test and know that all these are positive, these are negative? Can we do it? If we can, if we have the test kits and we can do something like that, I think it can bring the disease, because it is for their own good for them to know that these are the positives they have been taking and we are negative, and therefore now if we follow the laid down safety protocols, we should be able to live our lives. So I think that we can consider some of these options.
Thank you very much, Elvis. Well, Janto, your thoughts on extending the closure of our borders to 31st of May?
I think it's a good thing. And I think if we can, we should even extend it into June.
Why?
Where are we going? Where are we traveling to? When the whole world is still under lock and key. Is it important? Because remember that where cargo planes are concerned, cargo planes can come in with goods. So that is okay. The only challenge I have is for those who have become stranded in our country. But I know that flights are being organized, because I know the British High Commission are doing that. So even if we're going to open the border, let's open the border for those who came here, got themselves caught in here, and need to go back to where they came from. And let's get their embassies to organize charter flights for them so that at least they can go back home. Once that is done, then at least we can now close the borders fully to make sure that a lot of the disease is in country and we don't import more into the country. With regards to looking at the areas, I still maintain, Jifa, that we need to have these testing booths all around the country.
But we don't have the resources, and even more developed countries still struggle to get all this, countrywide testing scheme right.
You see, we need to target. With some of the funding that is coming, we need to target. Which comes first? Testing or curing the infection? I think testing would help us, separate the sheep from the goat, i.e. those who are positive and those who are negative. So testing is a huge thing with regards to COVID-19. And I think if we can even get some of the private institutions, the donations they are making, they go into putting booths all along, the important areas, especially in Greater Accra, so that we can test more, it would help us. But yes, I think it's a good thing that the President has extended the border closure.
Okay.
Because you see, if we even open the borders, we can control the airlines coming in. But it's very difficult to control the porous borders.
Yeah.
And it's going to increase the cost with regards to immigration and all that kind of thing. So let the whole world get to a stage where they say this thing is under control. Look at HIV. When HIV started, people were dying left, right, center. When we found a way to manage it, do you hear HIV anymore? Because people aren't dying. So I think it's an important thing that we have to look at and also follow the world so that we work together in making sure that once we open the borders, we are not bringing in new deaths. And once we open the borders, it's not a question of new cases coming in and we having to now go back to where we started from.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, so we all have on our face masks this morning because we're still ensuring that we're safe, we're keeping ourselves safe and keeping others from also contracting the virus because we could be asymptomatic. There's a story here that has to do with the billboard featuring the president without a face mask on. So I'm reading from City Newsroom. Just call it. It says COVID-19 billboard featuring Akufo-Addo without face mask to be pulled down. That's coming from the Information Minister Kojo Oppong Nkrumah. Information Minister Kojo Oppong Nkrumah has disclosed that the billboard communicating the importance of wearing a face mask, which also features the president without a face mask, will be pulled down. The minister, however, asked persons wanting to help educate Ghanaians on the coronavirus to engage the government to avoid such mishaps. So I'm going to quote the Information Minister. He said, "We appreciate all those who seek to help government communicate at this time, but please do well to engage with the government on imaging and messaging. This billboard of the president without a mask is not from the government. Note that at his last public appearance, the president wore his mask till his speech. We have asked city authorities to pull this down." He also went ahead to say, and this was a tweet, he went ahead to say that we encourage the well-intentioned advertisers to engage with us directly to avoid such mishaps in future. So your thoughts on this, public communication perhaps gone wrong as far as, the president not wearing a face mask on a billboard that's supposed to be encouraging people to wear face masks?
We should realize that people who want to help in spreading information would definitely use the president's picture because he's the face of COVID-19 now in terms of telling us what to do, how to handle it, steps they are taking, amounts of money that is required. He's telling us everything. So maybe it's time for the president himself to wear a mask during his addresses to us, and then all this won't happen. Because perhaps nobody has a picture of the president wearing a mask. I must say, I haven't seen the president wearing a mask. I probably he does wear it, but I haven't seen it. So maybe it's high time for the president to start wearing a mask in his addresses, and then all this thing won't happen because you're telling people to contribute, to help, educate, to put money forward, to buy PPEs and all this. Definitely, as a leader, let's see you also wearing a mask. A leader doesn't go to the front line without his shield. He takes his shield, and his troops too will take their shield to make sure they defend themselves.
But should there be some guidelines as far as people who they want to do well, but they end up doing the wrong thing. Like we've seen videos of people trying to donate items to communities and they are not respecting social distancing. So the intention might be good, but the implementation ends up actually being more harmful than good, like we've seen with this ad for face masks without a face mask on, and people donating food items and then exposing the most vulnerable amongst us to the virus because they're all rushing for the food.
Well, I think the information ministry should have put out these guidelines as to what people should do. If you want to do an advert, please make sure that you do X, you do Y. If you want to donate this, make sure you do X, you do Y, so that people are aware. If there are no directives, there are no measures towards it, and people want to help, this is what happens. People go ahead and do an advert with the president's picture, and because it gives it a bit of gravitas. So I think everybody should wear a face mask. The president, Minister of Information, as we are sitting here, we are wearing a face mask. So if we are saying it and preaching it, we should act it also.
Okay, thank you very much. And you've brought out a directive as far as the meal sharing are concerned. That you can actually get arrested if you go somewhere and they are just not respecting social distance. The police can come in and harm you. The information ministry is also addressing this issue with the face mask. Elvis, your thoughts on this?
Well, I think there was some small missing point that led to this. Yeah, what happened, I remember, was the Advertisers Association of Ghana actually made a presentation that they want to donate 50 billboards across the country to support the education on COVID. Yeah. So when you see that particular billboard, you see that there's a government Ministry of Information logo on it. So you say sponsored by, then you see Ministry of Information logo, and then you see DPP, the advertising company.
And the information minister himself was there to take that.
No, that was the presentation. I'm talking about the billboard itself. So what happened? You realize that the message is that this is sponsored jointly by the Ministry of Information and DPP, which is an advertising company. So you realize that billboard is definitely part of the 50 that was promised by the Advertisers Association. But the issue is what creativity went into the artwork before they put it out, and did they consult or did they have any discussion about the content of what they are going to put it out with the government to agree before they put it out?
But shouldn't there have been a guideline before government also agreed to take their donation?
No, there may be a guidelines. I want to give you 50 billboards. I want to communicate the messages that the president said we should put out there. Yes.
So as a government, shouldn't you also do your due diligence on what's being put out there?
Yeah, and the message the president says, say, wear your mask, do this, do that, keep social distance. Yes. But if you are going to do an artwork, and then you do the artwork and left out the president wearing a mask, and I don't see the final artwork, I agree that the president say wear a mask is a good message, so put it on the board. Okay, so I think that, as he said, the minister has said it, they need to collaborate as what? Private-public partnership. If you want to do something about it for government, we appreciate it. But let us all agree on the content of what we are going to put out there so that we can have uniformity in the communication. For me, that is important. So for me, I think, yes, it's something that we all criticize because we think that the message is good, but the picture did not depict the message. This is something that can easily be rectified. So I think that we should just rectify it and move forward. But consistency in the communication is critical. And therefore, as the government has said, if you're a private sector person, you want to help, please, let's all collaborate and have one single message out there so that we don't have this back and forth. At the end of the day, the president not wearing mask also does not mean that you being asked to wear mask means you don't wear it because the president is not wearing it. It's important that the president is seen in a mask so that at least it is consistent with the message. But it is our lives that we are talking about. What we are talking about, there's a mere poster. So if you say because the president is not wearing it but says I should wear it and then I won't wear it, you are endangering your own life if the mask can give you any protection. So please, I think that the minister has spoken. Let's take it from there and say, whoever wants to put out messages out there, let's do it in collaboration with the information ministry so that we can have consistency in the communication when it comes to COVID.
Okay, just to add, see, when we bring measures out and when we bring directives out, everybody is expected to adhere to it. I remember just before Parliament rose, some parliamentarians were wearing masks, some weren't wearing masks, sitting next to each other in that close proximity. And the laws are out, measures are out that everybody should wear a mask. So why aren't parliamentarians wearing a mask? And this is where people will say, it should start from leadership. Leadership show the way and people will follow. But if leadership leave gaps, then people too will leave gaps. Everybody must do what the president has said because it will save our lives. And if you're a leader in this country, wear your mask. Especially Parliament of all places. Sometimes you will see even the speaker with his mask off, hanging around his mouth with his nose not covered. It's not a good thing. So let's all try as much as possible to follow the protocols that the president has put through. And I think the president too should at least start wearing the mask so that, because it could happen that they looked for a picture with the president with the mask and they couldn't find it and thought, okay, let's use it as it is. And yes, if they had gone probably to see the Ministry of Information, they might have found one of those pictures. So everybody must know that the measures put in place is to cover everybody, and nobody is above the law.
Okay, thank you very much. We've received some messages from our viewers, so I'll read them briefly, and then we'll take a look at our final story. Wolanyo in Akwetia says, Ghanaians are not listening to advice. They prefer cure to prevention, ignoring that sometimes you can be affected, and that will lead you to untimely death, leaving your family desperate for your carelessness. So COVID-19 won't decline if we continue to disobey swiftly, to respect protocols, and not to be responsible with the directives prescribed. So you're saying we shouldn't take COVID-19 for granted and we should all stay protected. Thank you, Wolanyo, for that message. Hi, good morning, Jifa and your panelists. I can tell you for a fact that STC is not practicing social distancing. Example, Bolga to Takrady and Takrady to Bolga. I have the evidence. This is from Kwame. He's in Bolga. I suggest that the managers should be called to order. Good morning. Borders should be closed till July 2020. This is coming from Kwame again. Jifa, it's high time relief items were sent to the borders, to border residents who are hungry because of the closure of the borders. The Jifa borders cannot be closed anymore. Government must relieve us at Aflao. So you're saying that there are issues at Aflao that you need help. So we'll follow up on that for you. Jifa, our borders have been closed again. Can you confirm the government that we are hungry in the border communities? Okay. A final message here. As a matter of fact, we are in critical moment, and I think we shouldn't jeopardize COVID-19. It is a shared responsibility. Let us in one accord help to fight it, and I'm sure we shall overcome it. I commend the president for his directive to industry to produce more PPEs. That is how visionary leaders lead. Okay, this is coming from Abuaje in Asaman Kese. We'll now take a look at our final story here. I'm reading from citynewsroom.com, and it says, Afrobarometer survey, 72% of Ghanaians feel media is not free from state interference. Though Ghana has recorded the largest increase in support for press freedom in Africa, 72% of Ghanaians feel the media is not very free or not at all free to report or comment on the news without government interference, according to an Afrobarometer survey. Only 2 in 10 think the media is somewhat free or completely free to do so, the second lowest perception of media freedom among 8 countries surveyed in 2019. It goes on to say that currently 3 in 10 respondents say the government should have the right to prevent publications it disapproves of. So I'll get your thoughts on this. I think I'll start with you, Elvis, on this media report and 72% of Ghanaians feeling as though the media is not free from state interference.
Well, I think that we have to look at it. That's what the public have said. And as media houses, we have to look at it critically. But for me, it's not much of a surprise to me because
Why?
largely the media in Ghana are either, largely, not all, but largely are either on the side of one party or the other.
What does that mean for our democracy?
And therefore, it means that whichever government is in power, and depending upon its friendly media houses and those that are not friendly. So, at any point in time, the media is seen as being in bed with government in one way or the other. I have always said that we just have failed to educate the public that media houses are entitled to choose those positions. It actually helps you to analyze their work better, because if you know that this media is really associated or sympathize with this ideology, if you read their content and you follow their line of issues, you know that they are toning this line because they sympathize with this political ideology. So for me, I think that the education should rather be that don't be worried much about whether a media house is decided to be sympathetic to a political, but rather get to know that is rather helping you to do a better analysis of what they put out there, so that you don't take it from the perspective as if this one is coming from a completely non-partisan or non-ideological basis.
But what does that mean for development in a country where everything has to do with politics?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. These are some of the issues.
Also identifying the
these are some of the issues that came up with the democracy. See, you will be told, if you go to media school, you'll be told that media is an ideological institution. So before somebody sits up and says, I'm going to set up media, the person has a reason of setting up the media. So if you say a media is doing something, I always ask people, why don't they have problem with Kotoko Express or Has News? Kotoko Express will never publish any positive story about Has. Neither will Has News publish any positive story about Kotoko.
But these are human rights.
These are media organizations. So if you understand media from the perspective that media are ideological institutions, then you begin to understand the operations of specific media which are aligned to specific philosophies and ideologies. But if you don't have that information, then you'll be taking their context from the perspective that they are neutral,
but
which they are not.
Beyond ideologies, media also has a role to impact the lives of the people they serve.
Of course, that's what I'm saying.
How does that fit into
it helps you a lot, because if, for instance, if I'm talking about an issue of capitalism and my media house has a philosophy of supporting capitalism, even though I'm giving you the facts, you realize that in my analysis I'll always defend capitalism.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong. I'm giving you the facts about what capitalism is. But in my analysis, I'll always defend it, because that is what my media ideology is about.
Okay.
So if you understand, I think that we knowing the positions of even journalists themselves and the media house they work for gives us, the public, the opportunity to rather analyze their work better. But when we assume that they are neutral, then we analyze their work from the wrong perspective and arrive at the wrong conclusion. You see, it is state-owned media in many places, state-owned media that is not allowed to follow any particular ideology. They are supposed to operate. That's why we say
I have to wrap you up.
They operate as a public interest institution, as state-owned media. But when somebody is a private person sets up a media house, it could be for profit basis. It could be, that's what we call commercialism, or it could be for specific ideological reasons. So for me, let's get the perspective right. If I know Elvis is NDC or NPP journalist, when he's talking about issues, I can understand it.
To wrap you up, Elvis. Thank you.
So tell me, which ideology is your newspaper? Where do you stand? Which of the parties?
We don't really have a political ideology. No, we don't. And I can prove it with our work.
So you defeat your argument?
No, I didn't say that. You are taking my perspective wrongly. You are saying that I say all media houses. I didn't say that.
Some.
I said some. So I didn't say all.
You are not in that some?
No.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Okay, all right, that's fine. That's fine.
Continue.
Jifa, you see, transparency and accountability is an essential condition of democracy.
Yeah.
And I believe that media houses are there to put government on its toes, to see whether what government is doing is transparent, is accountable to the people. I think media houses are there for the people.
Not for the political parties.
Not for the political parties.
Oh, political ideologies.
Not for the political ideologies.
Okay.
Whether you support a political party or don't support a political party, the people use the media houses as their mouthpiece. And a lot of things that media houses talk about, they're talking in defense of the people. So If you tell me that a media house has aligned itself with a political party, then they've lost the aim and objectives of why they're a media house. I believe, as much as possible, media houses should be more neutral, to be able to make sure that the governments they put in place do the right thing by the people. And we've seen it since 1992. A lot of people have complained about governments that's come into power. Even before then, even in my own Kwame Nkrumah's era, it was there. Although, when you look at the democracy going forward from 92 onwards, we seem to have been doing better where media is concerned. The media is the mouthpiece of the people, and if it's the mouthpiece of the people, they should do things that would make the people know that they have some organization to check government. Because if you leave government, they will do whatever they like. Look at what has happened with some of the media people in this country today. We are what? We were number one when? 2 years, 3 years ago in Africa. Where are we today? It must tell you something. As I keep saying, paper never lie.
Thank you very much, Lawyer.
If you don't talk about ownership, who owns the media, and you are talking about being there for the people, then you are making analysis from the wrong perspective.
For joining us for Breakfast Daily. We're going to be talking to Akosia Konedu Yadom about 7 ways to increase breast milk flow. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Agriculture is the backbone of Ghana. For the prosperity of the Ghanaian economy, it is imperative for the youth to develop interest in agriculture. The Living Fields Agri-Challenge provides the opportunity to train and develop the next top agribusiness entrepreneurs. For this maiden edition, we have 12 contestants, 4 production groups. Economic viable and market-oriented vegetables will be cultivated. At least 4 agribusiness startups. Over 300,000 Ghana cedis worth of amazing prizes to be won at the end of the Agri Challenge. Living Fields Agri Challenge is proudly sponsored by media partners. Powered by PB Studios.
Living Fields Agri Challenge every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. only on City TV.
Extra data, extra minutes, and extra unlimited calls. Not just that, even our extra data doesn't expire. See the film? Simply dial *111# to bundle now.
Airtel Tigo. Life is simple.
I got some money.
There is nothing as hard as a diamond. For buildings with superior strength that withstand all weather conditions, Diamond Cement should be your preferred choice. Locate Diamond Cement nationwide with factories in Aflao, Takrady, and Bupe. Diamond Cement, as hard as a diamond.
There is no promise we cannot keep. There is no commitment we cannot honor. There is no delivery we cannot guarantee. There is only one Bethel Logistics Company Limited, a licensed international freight forwarding and clearing agent, a trusted global brand with an extensive network for the movement of air freight and ocean freight worldwide. We are the trusted name for road freight into Western and Northern Africa. We are fully accredited by Ghana Customs and Excise. We cater for all your freight forwarding, customs clearing and forwarding, cross trades, inland transportation, internal cargo tracking systems, customer freight costing and consultancy, cold chain logistics management, logistics and warehousing, quality inspection, and much more. In Accra, Tema, and Takrady, we are always available to ensure easy movement of cargo countrywide. Call us on 0204 528 900 or 0244 707 859. Email info@bethellogistics.com. Locate us in Accra at North Ridge, adjacent Accra Girls High School, or in Tema at Community 4, or in Takrady on the second floor of the GCB building. Website bethellogistics.com. Bethelog, experts in shipping logistics.
All right, welcome back. It's time for us to do nutrition. And this morning, I have been joined by Akusia Kunedu Yadom, who is a state-registered nutritionist. And she's going to help us to understand. Last week, we began this subject of 7 ways to quickly increase breast milk flow. And we're going to do, this is the part 2 of that. And good morning to you, Akusia.
Good morning, Kweku.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, yourself?
I'm well, thank you. All right, so we began this conversation last week. Let's advance it.
Okay, so 7 ways to boost your breast milk production. And we spoke about what you need to do for yourself. I said that I don't know if you have the projections, and we could just go straight to the conversation. But first, you need to make sure you ask for skin to skin. And I said that has to help with mother and child bonding. Normally, after delivery, being CS, being SVD, you can ask for this. Yes, thank you so much. So the skin to skin for mom and baby bonding, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Make sure that the baby is put on the mother. They are both naked after the session. So at least an hour after a cesarean section, it should be done. You should ask for it. Sometimes they may forget. And then you keep body constantly hydrated. So the 8 glasses a day, that is the equivalent, 62 ounces, because a glass is equivalent to 8 ounces.
Yeah.
So if you are taking 8 glasses, that means that you, as a normal person, you are taking 62 ounces. But for a breastfeeding mother, we know that breast milk contains a good amount of water. You need to make sure there is a top up. And I said that for the 62, it's equivalent to 4 sachet waters. And so 4 of what we call pure water will make out 4. Even more, it's about somewhere almost 67. Okay. So if you're taking 4 of the sachet water, you should make up for your daily need as far as the 8 glasses or 62 ounces is concerned. But for a breastfeeding mother, you have to make sure you are adding up. And adding up means that you need an extra 34. And that 34 is equivalent. It's even more. You get about 38, 37, 38. Okay. That is 2 sachets. Okay. So I am taking 4. As a breastfeeding mother, you should take 6 of that a day, and it will help as far as your hydration is concerned. And then for the third one, I said that you take a warm shower. We know that sometimes, even with engorgement or challenges as far as what women go through with the breast, taking a warm shower or doing a warm presses helps to make you feel some bit of comfort, because once there is engorgement, there's this kind of tension. Things are kind of clogging at a point. So after engorgement, your breast, the milk, it begins to clog. And that way, there is something that needs to kind of relax the breast. So you do the warm presses or take a warm shower. It helps also just to open the duct for breast milk to flow. Okay. So that is the third, and so that opens up for a continuation. So for the 4th point, can we please have it back on? For the 4th point, you have using breast pump for more signals to be sent to the brain. If you are pumping 500, you can pump up to 500 ml, but your ability to pump more has to do with you. So for people who are using breast pumps to make sure they pump milk for storage or for feeding baby, you need to make sure you are pumping more. The more you pump, the more you get it. The more you breastfeed your baby, the more you have a lot of milk. If you are feeding baby more, you improve on your breast milk flow. There are mothers who are doing 45 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour. So obviously, if I am breastfeeding my child every 1 hour and you are doing something below what I'm doing, obviously you don't expect yourself to achieve the kind of results I have. Yes. And so for the next point, you have you should have an extra pumping time. That is 3 to 5 minutes after emptying the breast. What happens is that after pumping, even though your breasts are empty, after breastfeeding baby, your breasts are empty, you should have an extra pumping time between 3 to 5 minutes to also send information to the brain that, oh, we are still pumping.
We need more.
Yes, we need more, even though the breasts are empty. What it does is that it will affect your nest production. It's a psychological thing. And last week I spoke about the fact that you don't need to eat this to make sure you are getting breast milk. It's a psychological thing. It's a God thing. Once baby is out, once you have every grounds right, once you are relaxed, and that is our next point, you should make sure you rest well. You don't have to be worried, you don't have to be tense, you don't have to be stressed. Once you are relaxed, as far as your brain, your mind is concerned, there's a reason why our mothers and our in-laws will be around us when we deliver, is to help us to relax. And the fourth...
So let me just remind our viewers that we are watching this segment. We're talking about 7 ways to increase breast milk flow after birth, and it's very important. So we've gone through a few points now. We're still doing this. If you have any questions right now for Akosua, please send them with the hashtag Breakfast Daily. The WhatsApp line is 0550 585832. Kindly send us the messages and we'll ask her right now.
And the last point has to do with expression. And last week we showed a video to that, how you can express in a house. Depending on where you deliver. If you deliver in my facility and I am there, I will help you. But if you are not there, yes, this is what you do. You can get what we know as in kuto shea butter. Make sure you moisturize your hands. Obviously, it's not my body, it's another person's body. And in this era of COVID-19, we are all supposed to be careful. So I had to really protect myself. Now, after applying the shea butter, moisturizing your hands, and then applying a little on the breasts just to make sure that we ease movement and avoid friction. You express from the body of the breast to the areola. The areola is the brown or the black part after the nipple. So you express from the body, you keep doing it, and if they are engorged or you feel that your breasts, they are too heavy, and sometimes you have this lumpy lumps on the side, then you can do the warm presses, and especially if you are in pain, you should do the warm presses just to create a bit of comfort for you if you are doing it on yourself. And if you're having warm shower and doing the warm presses, it will make things easier. So you can do this in a house just to help you as far as breast milk supply is concerned. You can do this, and in a day after doing this, this woman by now will probably be making even 500 ml if she continues with this. Yes, so that is what you need to do if you want to improve on your breast milk flow and you have engorged breast also. Yes, so that is it. I don't know if further questions will probably...
So I just wanted to find out, so now if you have let's say you're producing a lot, right, and you want to express and store. Tell us a little bit about storage of expressed milk.
Thank you so much for this question. Now, with what you asked about, you can express into a cup, a clean cup with a cover. We don't put it in feeding bottles. We constantly are preaching against feeding babies with feeding bottle because the teat is designed like your nipple. And eating from the feeding bottle with the teat makes it very easy for the baby. So now, if I want to put you to the breast, it's like, Kweku, let's walk to Adabraka Market. And there is this AC car waiting. Oh, Kweku, come and sit in. Kweku and Akosua, let's go to Adabraka Market in this car. Which one would you prefer? So with time, babies get used to the feeding bottle. So in this scenario I gave, the feeding bottle is just like sitting in a car to Adabraka Market, and then suckling from the breast is like you walking to Adabraka Market.
Okay, so help me to understand, why are you preaching against it if it is easy to feed them with the bottle?
It defeats everything we are talking about as far as even our 7 quick ways to increase breast milk flow is concerned. The more you put baby to the breast, the more you have a lot of milk. The more you pump breast milk out, the more you have a lot of milk. If you are not putting baby to the breast, signals are not being sent to the brain to keep producing for baby to have enough milk. So the more you put baby to the breast, the more you have a lot of milk. So if you are putting you are feeding baby from the feeding bottle, it means that the time baby will be attached to the breast will be less. And it will affect your flow as far as production. It would affect production totally, and so it will reduce the volumes you are making as far as breast milk is concerned, and it affects the dentition of these children. And then for infection, because Kweku,
what affects the dentition?
Using feeding bottles, the teeth, it can affect how proper arrangement of the child's teeth. We have something we say, it's not every child who goes through that. So it is a reason why we preach against using feeding bottles until the child is, let's say after 1, you can start using it that way. If right now you give me a fresh baby and I put my breast in the mouth of the baby, the child will suckle. If you bring another woman, give the baby to the woman, the baby will still suckle. But after some time, this child knows the mother's breast. So after 1, we know that after 1, you can't, I can't even trick a child as far as breastfeeding is concerned. So at that time, baby maternal bonding and baby getting to know mommy is top notch. And so it is very, very, very difficult for you to convince a child to go off breast milk. Do you get it? And we don't want to defeat exclusive breastfeeding. That's why we are preaching against feeding bottle earlier. So for the storage, I don't know if you can quickly go through it. So for room temperature, because of our weather, you can keep breast milk, expressed breast milk in the room for 4 hours or 6 hours. And then after 6 hours to 8 hours, you should keep it in the fridge. Now, our fridges are different. There are some fridges you can even keep it 1, 2, 3 days, and it will still be okay. If it has to go beyond weeks, it has to be in the freezer. Now, weeks extending into months, up to 6 months, it has to go into the deep freezer, and it should be stored in breast milk storage bags. And there is a way to go about it. We may not be able to show everything, but there was an image to that.
The bags.
Yes, how to properly arrange. And now you have to label your bags. You don't just put it in the bag, because first in, first out. So let's say after 3 months I have to go to work, or after lockdown, or after COVID-19, life has to go back to normal. And now pressure will be on us as new mothers to quickly step up as far as what we have to do in the office is concerned. Now you can start expressing, bargain, label the time, the date, and make sure that you can do
so those are some
something
of the bags there.
like this. Yes, that is how it should be arranged. You can get a bowl and then make it sit in the bowl so that it doesn't get stuck in the fridge. So for 4 to 6 hours, I've spoken about it, and then I've spoken about the time. Now you have to use the appropriate breast milk storage bag, like I spoke about, and then to use the milk, you need to thaw it. So now you don't bring it outside the fridge. You need to bring it from the deep freezer to the fridge side, allow it to thaw overnight before you put it in warm water, and then feed baby with a cup and a spoon. So this is what you need to do as far as storage is concerned. And there is a way to go about, tell you how to go about it. Kweku, there is this important thing I want us to do.
Ahead.
So for people who have inverted nipples, now you can't go to the hospital. People are scared. This is something you can do or for yourself in the house. Now you get this syringe. Yes, a syringe, right? And then you cut this part off. So it's normally like this.
Where can people buy the syringe from?
You can go to the pharmacy and get it. The pharmacy near you and get it. So you cut this with a knife or with a blade. Now, inverted nipples can also be a way of preventing breastfeeding because there is no nipple for even the baby to be able to latch onto the breast. So it defeats breastfeeding. Now, you can attach this to the nipple area and start drawing this.
Okay.
So you attach it to the nipple area like that, and you start drawing it
so it
inwardly.
pulls it out.
So it will just push the nipple inside. You keep doing it until the nipple is out.
Okay.
You keep doing, don't give up, keep doing it, and just keep attaching baby onto the breast. Keep putting baby to the breast. Nature will happen whilst you do this. Before you do this, make sure you clean it with soap and warm water, and make sure it's very clean before you do it. You can do this and your nipples will be out. I do it for a lot of people at the facility a lot of times, and it helps. So normally after first, second try, I leave it with mothers to do it. So you can go to any pharmacy, get it, clean it, cut this off, and make sure you do it just to help you quickly.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So usually at the pharmacy shops, when you buy this, it comes with the hypodermic needle, so you can dispose of the needle.
Thank you so much.
And use the syringe on its own. All right, so I have a question here. Someone says, I'm planning to stop breastfeeding my baby at 1. I want to know if it's good to do that. Okay,
oh, sweetheart, please don't do. This is the most amazing thing you can do for your child. So if you're a mother promising your child heaven, breast milk is heaven for your child. Please.
Even at 1?
At 1, Kweku, it is the WHO, what do you call it, protocol, says that 2 years, first 6 months exclusive breastfeeding, then you do family foods, yes, or complementary feeds, and still breastfeed until child is 2 years. The first 1,000 days of our lives is very critical, Kweku. You and myself, we know. It is very important for us because who knows, if it wasn't breastfeeding, I wouldn't probably have been here talking to you as to why you need to do it. It is very important and nothing can replace it. So please make sure you do it. I know that for some working mothers, there is a reason why they wouldn't even want to do it because time is a factor, pressure from work. But you can express. Once you are expressing, it means that now we have time. You can start expressing, get storage, breast milk storage bags, start bagging them. If I am leaving or I am going to work, I make sure that I have, let's say, a lunch box. There is a way to go about it. It's unfortunate we may never be able to talk about everything here, but you can reach out. You can just send me a DM and then I'll help you out with it. Now, my mother with my senior brother, who is of more than 35 years, my mother was carrying breast milk to his school when he was a child. So please try and just do the right thing for your baby. Your baby will thank you later because it's so beautiful to have a child 5 years, 7 years, and mothers are saying we've never been to the hospital.
Yeah.
It helps, please.
All right, so I think there's a follow-up to that question. It says that I know that stopping at 1 is not good, but I'm pregnant again.
Okay, so for that, what normally happens is that if you're pregnant, your caregiver, for instance, let's say if it's a different facility, your gynae or your doctor will help tell you when to stop breastfeeding because there are women who are even stronger or strong till they are in their 7th month. So if it's not putting pressure on you as a mother at a point, definitely you'll be coming for reviews and sections, and so you'll be talking to us as your caregivers, and so we'll know when to tell you to stop. But you don't stop because you are pregnant.
Okay. I wanted to ask something also. What happens when the breast becomes sore? How do you handle? So
there are lots of breast problems. We have thrush, we have sore nipples, like you spoke about. Now, with that, you would have to see a specialist, and you have a lot of people doing OTCs, that is over-the-counter drugs, to take care of that. Please stop it. You have to because it is not just you. Another life, a baby, is depending on you. Now you need to make sure you go to the hospital if you have an issue like that, so that antifungal medications will be prescribed to you depending on your history and every information available to whoever is taking care of you. So once they've been prescribed, they will give you something for your breast, and then they will give something for taking care of the child. That is if it's trash. But if it's sore nipple, on your own, you can be doing the warm presses I spoke about. And if it's so much that you feel that you are alarmed or you feel worried, you should just go to the hospital, please.
Okay, so we have one of our Facebook viewers from Techiman in the Bono East region. He says, can the husband also contribute in helping the woman increase her breast milk? If yes, how? This is coming from Dabie Gope. Yeah.
That is very, 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 very true. You can help as a man. Now, I sometimes have chills when I see men in the labor ward with their wives. They are not leaving. And whatever you are telling the woman, as far as skin to skin is concerned, at that moment, she's been pained. And some have had tests. And so a physiotomy has come in. They sometimes they don't even want to look at the baby. So if you are there as a healthcare giver, you go ahead with whatever information that needs to come out. But it's better if the husband is also there. Sometimes you have the men like trying to be extra nice, extra romantic to their wives, and that helps. Like I said, if your wife is stressed in any way, if your wife is worried, it will affect the production of breast milk. So if you're a sweet husband, if you know how to make your wife laugh, if you know how to make your wife happy, definitely it will affect the production.
Super. Thank you very much, Akosia.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you mentioned earlier on how people can reach you.
Okay, so on social media, you can follow my Facebook page. Don't send a friend request. I can't accept. So you can follow the page at Nutritionist Akosia on Facebook, and on Instagram at the Nutritionist Akosia, on Twitter, Nutritionist Akosia, and then you can call me on 0243 350206.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. We've been speaking to Akosia Konedu-Yadom, who's a state-registered nutritionist, and she's been helping us to understand the different ways that you can increase breast milk flow. All right, so we're going to come back after this short break, but while we do that, take a look at the entertainment highlights.
Welcome to Entertainment Highlights. My name is Atokwamene Suman Ment. Ghanaian actor Bishop Bernard Nyako is reported dead. The actor passed away on Saturday evening after a short illness. It will be recalled that a few months ago, news broke that he was not well. Recently, he even said in a news report that he was quitting acting because there was so much evil in the movie industry. Bernard Nyako, also a pastor, said he had decided to dedicate all his time to ministry and move away from the movie industry due to the evil nature. He starred in movies like Ghana Galamsey, Obakufo, Obi Ntiase, among others.
Mami Baha, you had the guts to throw her out. Say this to you. Oba on from February into Oba. Me do you come excavator level on machine. Say say you be CBO. Wait, you be coming for a time. No, never real. No, never. Wait, who worry me? Jesus, I should reject and discard my own mother. I don't want you 9 months about me na obre. Where were you? I told you I'll be doing them. Obako, here Obako. A BCBO, me friend say, Kwame, me do you what me? Hey, Obako ran a BCBO.
Rapper Sarkodie swept the board at the 2023 Music Awards, winning 5 honors including Music Man of the Year and Hip Hop High Life Act of the Year. He also won the Fan Army of the Year ahead of Stonebwoy's Beam Nation, Shatawale's Shatter Movement, and Kofi Kinata's Team Move. Another award he won was the Best Rapper Performance with his song Who the Man featuring Kwesi Arthur. His duet with Efia in 2019 also won him the Best Collaboration. Many of his fans are happy for the milestone Sarkodie achieved in the year under review after having to walk home with no honors in the previous year. Although Sarkodie won big on the night, Kofi Kinata carried home the biggest award, Song of the Year. He also won the award for the High Life Song of the Year. American rapper Meek Mill has expressed great interest in coming to Ghana after the coronavirus pandemic is over. The rapper made this known on his Twitter handle, expressing how much he can't wait to come over to Ghana after the COVID-19. Just like last year's year of return, where tourists and international movie and music stars visited the country, the rapper is also ready to come and have a feel of the motherland. He tweeted, "I want to go get to Ghana and ride when this is over." Some Ghanaians are encouraging him to make sure he comes and have a feel of the gateway to Africa. This is not the first time Meek has tweeted that he wants to visit Ghana. Last year, he put up a similar post. And that's all for entertainment highlights for Breakfast Daily.
Pay app. More social, more power, more services. Experience a cooler way of payments with exciting new features. Want to go social? Upload a cool image to add a personal feel to your account. Payments are even more seamless with an enhanced process. Mark some accounts as favorites so they are super easy to access. Even cooler, view payment due dates and check remaining balances for your favorite accounts. Want to repeat a payment? Do that right from the History tab. Have all your money in one place with a sleek look and feel. Bank Direct has had an awesome makeover. You can now send money instantly to 22 banks and counting. Express Pay, payments simplified.
Welcome back. It's Breakfast Daily on City TV. Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, today on Lockdown with Appy, we're going to be making stir-fried gari with sauteed sausages and vegetables, as well as steamed chicken. So grab all the protein you can get in the house, grab some vegetables, grab your gari. You're going to make the most nutritious gari you've ever eaten in your life. Let's take a look at it.
Hello and welcome to Lockdown with Appy. Once again, we're here to cook something interesting with, of course, ingredients that you can find right at home while you're on lockdown. My name is Apioko Seremashong Abe, and today we're making something very interesting. It's called stir-fried gari. Now, it takes its inspiration from, I have lots of Brazilian friends, one in particular, shout outs to Mrs. Surama King. We used to, back in the day when I was back in the classroom, when we had some downtime, we'd just share recipes, she, myself, and Dr. Bernard Akwe Jackson, who was an art teacher, and just really explore stuff. And there's one thing that I got to know from her. I already knew there was Brazilian gari, but I didn't know how it was made. And Brazilian gari, which is also called farofa, is essentially a stir-fried gari, and they do it really dry. Sometimes they store it in different bottles, and then later on you can have it with fried eggs, sausages, and whatnot. So I'm going to do a version of that today. I'm not really going to let it be as dry because I don't plan to store it for later. You can if you want to, since again you're on lockdown, you may want to do something that you can pick later, but we'll get into it once we get right back. And I have some chicken on the fire, so before we even come back, I'll just throw it on because chicken takes a bit of time to cook, and I need that in the final product. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Lockdown with Appy. My name is Apioko Seyiram Ashong Abe, and I'm making a stir-fried gari, which I said in the beginning of the show is essentially Brazilian inspired. There's Brazilian gari, which is known as farofa, and there's a recipe that I've sort of developed over time, just playing around with things that you can easily find in the kitchen. So I have put my chicken pieces on fire. Usually I'd like to use chicken breast, but I usually don't have chicken breast stocked up in my freezer, and because this is a show that teaches you to use what's around you. I had some chicken pieces, so I just took them, chopped them up, threw them in there. They are broilers, soft chicken, in case you're wondering. For those of you who don't know, yes, there's soft chicken and hard chicken. This is soft chicken. So it's in there. I put some ground black pepper in there, some white pepper, a tiny bit of nutmeg, just because it gives it an interesting exotic flavor. I'm trying to be exotic and Brazilian here, right? Some curry powder, not too much of it because we're not trying to color the chicken. Some dried red pepper, what we are all used to, what we like to put into our shito. We like spice, right? Okay, some salt I haven't added yet, so I'm just gonna do that for you to see. I'm going to do about 2 teaspoons because there's quite a bit of chicken there. And then some lemon. Just squeeze half a medium-sized lemon in there. I rubbed some on the chicken when I, started prepping it to go on fire. And again, for those of you who don't know, lemon, anything citrus, sort of takes away the smell, the raw smell of meat, and that includes chicken. So that's why I did that. I haven't tossed my diced onions in yet, which are very important for steaming chicken. So I'm just going to dice them up. For those of you who are wondering what I'm doing with the chicken, I want to play around with it just to give some protein to the stir-fry gari when I'm done. And so I need to prep the meat. I'll also be working with some sausages, and you'll see how I'll prep that shortly. It doesn't need to be too fancy, the onions I'm cutting, because I'm just using them to steam. And again, for people who don't know how to steam chicken or any kind of meat, it's very basic. You prep your meat, cut it up into sizable pieces, and then after that, you just toss it into a pan that's big enough, and then you fill it with water. So if your meat is up to here, then you want your water to be just above it, okay? So maybe 2 parts of water to 1 part of meat in terms of the levels that you see in the pan, not too much water. And then you throw your spices in there. And mommies at home, daddies who are also parenting while you're on lockdown, in case you're wondering, yes, this is something that you can easily leave to go and check on the babies. It's very doable. You just put your meat on. In terms of how long it should be on fire, that's up to you. I typically like my meat to be very, very tender for 2 main reasons. 1, I like my meat to melt in my mouth, and 2, I just wasn't blessed with the best of teeth. Okay, I wasn't blessed with the best of teeth. So I don't like to chew too much, otherwise it puts too much strain on my teeth. So if there's anyone at home who has that same experience that I do, or that same issue, then yes, steam your meat. I'll say maybe 20 minutes. Yeah, that gets it nice and soft. It also allows for all the juices to get into the meat, into the chicken in this case. And that's very important because a lot of the time when you gain access to meat, especially when you go out to certain places, the spice doesn't really get in, especially people who are mass producing food. It's not every time that you get a chance to marinate your meat and put it in the fridge overnight, which allows all the juices to soak in. But if you know how to steam, then you get, essentially a great tasting chicken or protein dish. Okay, that's looking great. Smells lovely. Love it. Okay, so while our chicken is on high heat, we're steaming, so that means you want the water to boil. And again, if you don't have a steamer, pressure cooker, just a simple saucepan with a cover is doable. And then your water is in there and you're still getting all the steam to cook your meat. Brilliant. And the good thing about doing it this way too is that at the end, as you see, you have a chicken broth which you can store for later and use for stews and whatnot. So I'm going to get right into the gari. So here I have a frying pan, non-stick, very important for what we're about to do and for any stir fry. Heat on, high as usual. Again, I cannot reiterate this enough. Once you're working with something that's pan top, high heat usually works because you're doing a quick fix. It's not like the oven where you can slow cook or you're making a stew and you need the heat to be low so that what's at the bottom of the pan doesn't burn. Today, I'm using coconut oil. Coconut oil is a favorite of mine. I like essential oils. I use coconut for my hair, use it for my body. When I'm shaving my legs, I shave my legs. I know a lot of people don't do that. Maybe too much information, but I do. And I like to coat my legs with coconut oil. And then, of course, I use it to cook as well. So coconut oil is a staple in my home. If it's not the same for you, no worries. I also have substitute sunflower oil here. That's an option as well. If plain old vegetable oil works for you too, no worries, no shame there. Please feel free. So I'm just going to set that over here. Okay. Usually if you want to know if your pan is hot enough, just hold your hand just above it and you see that. There you go. I feel the heat, and then you can also see that the oil is beginning to bubble. That's how you know it's hot enough. So what I'm going to do is quickly dice up some onions, very quickly, very roughly. Again, if you want to turn cooking into your side gig after this lockdown, that's great. But I'm just teaching you how to survive, baby. Survive in your kitchen, survive in your home. Your kids are eating every second. Why are they so hungry all the time? I don't get it. Is it the boredom? But anyway. And then these are, again, just simple things that you can do with stuff that's in your pantry, readily in your kitchen, whether you've shopped in bulk for the lockdown or not. I know some people are not able to do that, partly because maybe you don't have the money to buy in bulk, maybe you don't have the space. If you're a bachelor, for example, or a single lady, you have a single room, you don't have a huge fridge or freezer to be storing things in. These are simple things you can do on a daily basis that don't take too much time, too much energy, but you can have a great tasting meal, and you too can live the life song, even though you're on lockdown. Okay. So my onions are nicely chopped up. You can have them smaller if you like, bigger as well. And I'm just going to toss them right into the hot oil. There we go. Okay. And I love the smell of coconut oil. It's another reason why I love cooking with it. A lot of people find it too overpowering, maybe because it's unfamiliar. It's not necessarily something that we grew up using in a lot of our homes. But if you like komi kekina, you like the roadside kelewele, yeah, the way it's done. You like the stews that you eat when you buy food from our streets, especially the streets of Accra, streets of Kumasi. A lot of those things are done using coconut oil, shea butter. Talk about shea butter, jollof, all those interesting things. And these are local oils, and they do tend to be, depending on where you're shopping, if you go into our markets, they tend to be less expensive than your typical vegetable oil. But it's fine. Like I said, if coconut oil is not for you, no worries. Do you. Okay, so we got the garlic in there, also nicely chopped up. I'm sure you've realized by now that I don't really like using the blender. There's no reason. I just think that blenders are not readily accessible to everyone, and so if I'm going to be teaching people how to do things while they're at home and they can't get out, then maybe you don't even have enough electricity. Some people, you put your blender on, the electricity is going off. I don't want to be the cause of bad news. So just things that you can easily chop up. That's what I'm trying to help you with. Now, again, we have our cayenne pepper, our ground red pepper, the spicy kind. Just toss some in there. Okay. A little bit of salt, just about half a teaspoon. And something you may be like, oh, Charlie, I don't have this, so it means I can't do this. I don't want you to feel that way. What I'm doing here on Lockdown with Appy is for everyone, and feel free. Again, black pepper. And for anyone who is wondering that, this chick, anytime she comes on TV, she looks like she's using the same black pepper, the same curry. It's because, again, I want you to know that you don't need to step out every time you want to cook. You can use things that are readily available. There's some white pepper there, generous helping. You can use things that are readily available. So if you have only 3 spices on your shelf, feel free to play around with them. Once again, just for cohesion of taste. When you're cooking, what a lot of people don't realize is that one of the things that makes dishes come together. So I have chicken I'm going to be using later. I have this stir-fry gari that I'm prepping for if you use the same spices in your chicken as the same spices for your gari, or even throw some on your rice. If you're cooking rice, for example, and you're doing curry, put a tiny bit on the rice, put some black pepper on the rice. It binds the taste together, so it's an explosion in your mouth, and the taste is uniform. And that's something that you can probably pick up. Okay, so at this point, again, just for cohesion and continuity, I'm just going to a tiny bit of lemon juice. Okay. And now we're all set for our gari. So gari in there, just going to take a teaspoon. Just going to pour quite a bit in there. And it's to your specifications. So the reason I'm doing this is because I also want the egg yolk to feature. Okay. I just want, so look at that white, it's there. Once you beat your eggs, you lose the separation between the white and the yellow. So if you watched my episode, for example, on French toast, you saw that when I beat the egg together, everything became nice and creamy. I didn't want that feel for this. You'd also beat your egg if you're going to do an omelette. I didn't want that. More like a scrambled egg without beating it first is what I wanted. And my veggies are pre-washed, so I didn't just pick them from the market and start cutting them, in case you're wondering. Pre-washed and prepped. And a great tip, not just because we're in coronavirus season or COVID-19 season, but also because it's just great. There are other bacteria, viruses that can easily make us sick, make your kids and make your family sick. They lurk in our food, especially when you're doing vegetables and fruits. When you're prepping your vegetables, an easy thing to do is to wash them in salt water. So let your water be very salty. If you have vinegar at home, that also kills a lot of germs in food. Obviously, you can't use Dettol and disinfectants to be washing our food. Now, I'm just going to have mineral water. Just pour a bit on it. Just because I want the cabbage to catch up with the sausages and the eggs. Okay. Oh, that smells divine. Okay, and then I'm going to put some green peppers in there. The reason I put the cabbages first is because cabbages, of all the vegetables I have here, take the longest to cook. Okay, now I'm not trying to cook them through and through. What I want to do is really just to get them to be crisp. I don't want us to lose the nutrients. So green peppers, I'm going to dice them. And again, this is not like a stir fry that's supposed to have vegetables being the star. So you don't need too many. 1 carrot is fine, 1 tomato is fine, 1 small or medium-sized green pepper is okay. 1/4 of a medium-sized cabbage works great. Okay, almost through. Now I'm going to raise the heat so that you remember I poured some water in there, so now all the moisture just gets out. Okay. Okay. So I have my gari on one side, as you can see, trying to keep this side clean. And I'm sure you've realized by now that plating and I are best friends. I like to play around with my plate, make it look very interesting and colorful. And now my veggies and sausage, whatever this is supposed to be, I don't know. I don't know what to call it. There are some eggs in there too. Look at that, full of color. Amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Okay, so we've got that there as well. And then, finally, my chicken is going to go at this side. So I'm just going to transfer the chicken onto the chopping board. Some of it anyway. And then using your hands, you just, break it away. Smaller pieces. The pieces that are small already, you can just toss in here. It's fine. Arrange them nicely. Get some of your nice onions. It's still hot, so if you're not good at handling hot stuff, you might want to let it cool a little further. Remember, I've been doing this live, so I'm not necessarily at liberty to let my chicken cool, and everything is timed. Okay. So it looks like my pieces were small enough, so I don't need to do too much breaking. And again, I said usually I'd like to use chicken breasts just because, especially if you have children at home, they don't have to play with the bones, all that, risk swallowing anything. But since I had chicken pieces readily available in my freezer, that's what I brought. And now the broth. So I'm just going to pull a little more broth in here. Okay. And then spoon just a little bit over my gari to give it some moisture, over my sausages, eggs and veggies, and then over my chicken. And we're done. Of course, my plate has to look nice and neat. I'm just going to wipe around it. There we go. And we're all done. So you have your stir-fried gari, Brazilian inspired, with my sausages, some eggs in there and veggies, well sauteed and tossed, and then my steamed chicken. And of course, if you didn't even want to do the gari, you could have your veggies and your sausages and eggs with maybe some boiled yam later on, some rice maybe. It's very versatile. Or you can have the chicken, make it into a stew, eat the gari with shito. So even the 3 things on this plate can be done and eaten with different things at home, especially while you're on lockdown, Charlie. Be versatile. So once again, this has been Locked Down with Appy. My name is Apioko Sarah Mashong Abe. And of course, if there's anything you want us to try, you have a recipe, you have some ingredients that you don't know what to do with, just go ahead. Tweet at us, Facebook us, whatever it is, hashtag Breakfast Daily. You can also reach out to me across all social media platforms at Apiokor, APIORKOR. See you next time. Bye-bye.
All right, fantastic, delicious dishes. It's amazing how you can take something that is so simple and regular and just spruce it up, make it more exciting and interesting, and yet not cost too much. So fantastic. I have enjoyed that. I trust that you also enjoyed that as well. Well, Driva, come to the end of the show.
Yeah,
so quickly.
We have some messages from you guys, so I'll read them briefly. Opoku says, I'm enjoying the show, Pa, watching you live from New Ebrim. And there's another one here. Kwesi Blue says, Jifa, great job. Thank you guys so much for staying with us for Breakfast Daily. Don't forget to put on your face mask wherever you go, okay? Majority of the positive symptoms are people who have no symptoms at all. The positive cases are people who have no symptoms at all or very little symptoms. So we need to ensure that we keep ourselves safe and we keep everyone else safe as well. We're going to get through this together.
Yeah. Which of the segments of the show today did you enjoy the most?
Oh, I thoroughly enjoyed nutrition with Akosia Koneji, because it's always tricky, the whole breast milk conversation, and especially for new mothers. It's like, where do you go to find such information?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have a lot of personal experience when it comes to that. Because she said some things, about when mother is giving birth and husband being there and all that. So when my daughter was being born, I was right there.
Nice.
Because also, an older father figure friend of mine has said to me it was important, to do this. And this was very early in the pregnancy. So all through it, I knew this was part of what I needed to do. I needed to be there on that day.
Nice.
So I just couldn't wait. I mean, I was just super excited. She actually went from work straight there. And then I kept coming in and out, and it's like, no, it's not yet time, it's not yet time, it's not yet time. Then finally I was like, hey, it's time. So I went, and I saw it all, including the episiotomy, and that's kind of like scary, because it's like baby's head is coming out, but struggling, and at the point you could see that her scalp, which was already out, was turning blue because she's suffocating. Okay, so it's a lot of things going on there. So they put a scissors right in it and cut, and then all of a sudden the head just pops out.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've seen all of it.
Quite an experience.
It's quite an experience, and then the whole breast milk conversation. What I said was that, look, it's important for her to rest, because 9 months you've been carrying, all this while, and you wake up in the day, you're feeding baby and all that, and then in the night too, staying up and all that. So I said, look, listen, let's have a simple arrangement. We'll do a lot of expressing of milk, right? So that I can do the feeding at night, so all through the 9 months, the first 9 months of my daughter's life, every night I was up, feeding with the bottle. That's why I actually asked the question about the bottle, because I was interested in what the thinking is behind that, But yeah, for us it worked, But I do understand the issue of dentition and all that. You have to be careful how you do it as well. So yeah, but I enjoyed that conversation quite a bit.
I hope the men who are watching also take notes, right? Because you have to actively participate in your child's development. We have another message here from Ibrahim Al Hassan. He says, "Good morning, CCTV. We thank God bless us all in another day of the week. It's another day of the week. I wish you all the best and keep up the great work." Thank you so much for sending that message in. Sir Galaxy says, watching live inside the Donuts headquarters in Ashanti region. I wish I could go there one day and enjoy some donuts with you. But thank you guys so much for staying for breakfast day. Again, we started the show off talking about being a bit more compassionate, being empathetic, being there for each other. The Heritage Caravan guys have done it. We spoke to a nurse, Effie, who puts her life on the line for others. Wherever it is you find yourself, ask how you could help make someone else's life a bit better. So if you're a cleaner, what can you do to make the people around you better? Every single opportunity you get is a chance to serve, and the kind of gratitude you get from serving others, you will not believe it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we do know that our case count is now 2,169. 229 people are recovered. The death rate is the death count is at 18 now. All stats put into perspective, we're actually still in a very good place. Just keep safe. Make sure mask it. Don't ever walk out of your house without a mask. Okay, it's important. Don't do it like people who are trying to, you're doing because of somebody. Do it for yourself. Have enough belief in the fact that you're protecting yourself, and it's important to protect yourself and protect your family members who you're left at home. Okay, it's key. Don't be like the drivers who put on a seatbelt when they see a policeman coming. So it's like the mask is in your pocket, but you're not going to wear it. When you realize that the shop is not going to let you in, then you put the mask on. That's not it at all. Okay, let's do the right thing. It's very important. Yeah.
Definitely. And at 3 p.m. you can catch the special COVID-19 coverage right here on City TV, as well as 97.3 City FM. You don't want to miss it. And for those of you who missed the Rally Around the Flag concert, you can catch it on our YouTube page, City TV. And then we have Class Act.
Yep.
For the students at home.
Exactly. Class Act at 5:30. Don't miss it for anything at all. And for those there'll be an omnibus version from 4 o'clock all the way down to 5:30, where we start a new session of Class Act. Is absolutely important. All right, if you missed any segment of the show today, or any other shows that we have here on City TV, go over to City Tube. That's where all our shows are nicely cut up and segmented for you to enjoy.
Yes, and for all coronavirus updates, just go to www.citynewsroom.com/coronavirus. A big happy birthday to Godfred.
Yes, Godfred
Akoto-Boafo, head of current affairs here at the
He's 66 today.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
He looks very young. Wow. He does not look a day above 45. A very young chap.
It's the pomade.
And a special birthday shout out to Eleanor Swatson, who's the mother of two of our caravanites, actually, Carl and Robert Okran. They hope you enjoy your day.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Tomorrow we'll come back your way again. Same time, 7:30 a.m. We'll see you. My name is David.
And I am Jifa Ikia Amatam. We'll catch you tomorrow. Enjoy your day and stay safe. Bye.